Deep inside the quiet rooms of every home, there is a language being spoken that has nothing to do with words. It is the language of sighs, of turned backs, of long silences during dinner, and of the things we choose not to say because we are afraid of the answer. Most relationships don't end because of a single, explosive betrayal. They die from 1,000 tiny cuts, hidden misunderstandings that sit in a corner of the room, growing larger every day until there is no space left for love to breathe. You might be sitting across from the person you love right now, feeling 1,000 miles away, wondering how two people who once shared everything became strangers sharing a mortgage. We are about to pull back the curtain on the silent psychological killers of intimacy. These are the 10 misunderstandings that are destroying your relationship from the inside out, and why your brain is tricking you into sabotaging the very thing you want most. Number 1. The mind-reading fallacy. We often believe that if someone truly loves us, they should instinctively know what we need without us having to ask. Psychologically, this is a regression to infancy. When we were babies, we didn't have words. Our mothers had to guess if we were hungry, tired, or cold. As adults, we carry this primitive desire into our romantic lives, equating being understood without words with true love. When our partner fails to guess our needs, we don't just feel disappointed, we feel unloved. Imagine Sarah, who has had an exhausting day at work. She comes home and starts washing the dishes, slamming them slightly, hoping Mark will notice her fatigue and offer to take over. Mark is on the couch, scrolling through his phone. He sees her washing dishes and thinks everything is fine. Sarah grows increasingly resentful, telling herself, if he cared about me, he'd see I'm struggling. Mark, meanwhile, is oblivious. By the time they go to bed, Sarah is cold and distant, and Mark is confused by her sudden attitude. This cycle repeats because Sarah views asking as a sign that the love isn't genuine. The truth is, even the most soul-bound partners cannot read minds. Expecting your partner to be a psychic is actually a way of avoiding the vulnerability of making a direct request. When you don't speak, you leave your partner to fail a test they didn't even know they were taking. Love is not found in the silence of knowing. It is built in the courage of asking. Number 2. The difference is defiance delusion. In the early stages of a relationship, we focus on how similar we are. But as time passes, differences in personality, pacing, and preferences inevitably emerge. A dangerous misunderstanding occurs when we begin to interpret our partner's differences as a personal attack or a lack of respect for our way of life. We stop seeing them as an individual and start seeing them as a person who is wrong simply because they aren't us. Think of David and Elena. David is a pre-planner. He likes to know what he's doing next weekend by Tuesday. Elena is spontaneous. She thrives on how she feels in the moment. David begins to see Elena's spontaneity as laziness or a lack of care for their shared future. Elena sees David's planning as a cage meant to control her. They spend their weekends arguing, not about the plans themselves, but about whose personality is, quote, correct. David feels ignored, and Elena feels suffocated. They have forgotten that they are two different ecosystems trying to share a single climate. Psychologically, this happens because our ego views our own way of functioning as the standard. When someone deviates from that standard, our brain's defense mechanism flags it as a threat. We try to fix our partner to make ourselves feel safe again, but in doing so, we destroy the very uniqueness that once attracted us to them. Acceptance is not about changing the other person to match your rhythm, but learning to dance to two different beats at once. If you're finding value in these hidden truths, you should subscribe to Unspoken in Marriage. We dive deep into the psychology that most people ignore, and we don't want you to miss our upcoming series on rebuilding trust after it's been broken. Join our community to keep your relationship grounded in wisdom. Number 3. The projection of the past. One of the most silent and deadly misunderstandings is the belief that we are reacting to our partner when we are actually reacting to our history. We carry ghosts into our bedrooms, parents who neglected us, exes who cheated on us, or childhood friends who bullied us. When our partner triggers a familiar pain, We react with the intensity of a 20-year-old wound, leaving our partner baffled by our overreaction. Consider Leo and Clara. Leo grew up in a house where silence meant someone was about to leave. Now, whenever Clara goes into the other room to have some alone time to decompress, Leo feels a surge of panic. He follows her, asking what's wrong, over and over. Clara feels hounded and snaps at him. Leo sees this snap as proof that she is leaving. He isn't fighting with Clara. He is fighting with the ghost of his mother who walked out the door 20 years ago. Clara, on the other hand, feels like she's being punished for a crime she didn't commit. This misunderstanding happens because our nervous system is designed to remember pain to protect us from future hurt. We project our old scars onto our partner's current actions. We stop seeing the person in front of us and start seeing a composite image of everyone who ever hurt us. Your partner is often the person holding the mirror, but they are rarely the person who broke it in the first place. Number 4. The vent versus solve trap. Men and women, or simply different personality types, often approach problems with two entirely different goals: emotional connection or practical resolution. The misunderstanding occurs when one person is looking for a witness to their pain, while the other is trying to be a mechanic for their life. Imagine James and Sarah again. Sarah comes home crying because her boss was unfair. James immediately starts listing 3 ways she can talk to HR or update her resume. Sarah gets more upset, accusing James of not listening. James feels unappreciated and frustrated, thinking, "I'm literally trying to help you." Psychologically, James feels a masculine need to provide safety through solutions. Sarah feels a need for co-regulation. She needs James's nervous system to calm hers through empathy before she can even think about logic. When we try to solve someone who just wants to be heard, we accidentally send the message that their feelings are a problem to be dealt with rather than an experience to be shared. This creates a wall of frustration where one person feels dismissed and the other feels incompetent. Sometimes, the most powerful way to help the person you love is to keep your hands off the tools and just hold the light. Number 5. The myth of equal effort. We are often told that marriage is 50-50. This is perhaps the most damaging lie in relationship psychology. The misunderstanding here is the belief that if I put in 50% and you put in 50%, we will be happy. But life isn't a spreadsheet. There are days when one person can only give 10%, and if the other person insists on only giving 50%, the relationship falls into a 40% deficit. Take the case of a new couple, Maya and Sam. Maya just started a high-stress job and is exhausted. Sam feels it's unfair, that he's doing more of the housework. He starts keeping a mental tally. I did the laundry 3 times this week, she did it 0. He feels cheated. Maya feels overwhelmed and unsupported. They are both looking for fairness instead of fullness. Psychologically, this accounting mindset stems from a lack of trust. We track because we are afraid we are being taken advantage of. True intimacy requires the depth of the scoreboard. When you spend your time measuring what you're getting versus what you're giving, you aren't in a relationship, you're in a business transaction. And business transactions rarely survive the hardships of real life. A healthy marriage isn't 2 people giving 50%. It's 2 people both striving to give 100%, knowing that on some days the other will inevitably fall short. You are watching a channel dedicated to the emotional truths most people are too afraid to discuss. If you want to understand the hidden mechanics of the human heart and protect your future, hit the subscribe button now. Knowledge is the only thing that can bridge the gap between 2 people. Number 6. The tone translation error. It is a scientific fact that our brains process the tone of a message before the content. A misunderstanding occurs when we focus so much on the what of our words that we ignore the how. We think we are being helpful, but our partner hears judgment, sarcasm, or contempt. Think about a husband, Robert, asking his wife, "Are you wearing that tonight?" To Robert, it might be a genuine question about the weather or the formality of the event. But if his tone has a slight edge or a downward inflection, his wife hears, "You look terrible, and I'm embarrassed of you." She snaps back with a defensive comment, and Robert feels attacked for just asking a question. This happens because of emotional flooding. When we hear a tone that sounds threatening, our amygdala, the brain's fear center, shuts down the logical part of our brain. We stop listening to the words and start preparing for a fight. Most arguments in relationships are not about the topic at hand. They are about the emotional frequency the message was delivered on. It isn't just about what you say. It's about the feeling you leave in the room after the words are gone. Number 7. The negative sentiment override. This is a psychological state where a couple's history of conflict becomes so heavy that they begin to filter every action through a negative lens. Even a neutral or positive act is seen as suspicious or annoying. The misunderstanding is the belief that your partner is out to get you when they might actually be trying to reach out. If a husband brings home flowers during a period of negative sentiment override, the wife doesn't think, "How sweet." She thinks, "What did he do wrong now?" Or, "He's just trying to buy his way out of the argument we had last night." The brain has become so used to conflict that it rejects peace as a foreign object. This is an ego defense mechanism. By expecting the worst, we think we won't be hurt when the worst happens. But in doing so, we make the best case scenario impossible. When you lose the ability to give your partner the benefit of the doubt, you haven't just lost an argument. You've lost the foundation of the relationship. Trust is the belief that your partner's intentions are good, even when their execution is poor. Number 8. The busyness blur. In the modern world, we often mistake coexisting for connecting. We assume that because we are in the same house, sleeping in the same bed, and talking about the kids or the bills, we are maintaining a relationship. This is a misunderstanding of what human intimacy requires. Couples like Tom and Jenny spend 4 hours every evening in the same room, but Tom is watching the game and Jenny is on her laptop. They speak, but it's functional speech, logistics, schedules, and complaints. Over time, they begin to feel lonely despite the physical proximity. They wonder why they feel unseen. Psychologically, intimacy requires attunement, the active focusing of attention on the other person's internal world. Functional speech keeps a household running, but only emotional speech keeps a heart beating. Living together is a physical state. Staying together is an emotional choice that must be made every single day. Number 9. The pursuit-withdrawal cycle. This is one of the most common patterns in relationship therapy. One partner, the pursuer, feels a lack of connection and pushes for more talk or more time. The other partner, the withdrawer, feels overwhelmed by the pressure and pulls away to protect themselves. The misunderstanding is that the pursuer thinks the withdrawer doesn't care, and the withdrawer thinks the pursuer is trying to control them. Imagine a wife following her husband from room to room trying to finish a fight, while the husband locks himself in the bathroom. The wife feels abandoned. The husband feels hunted. Neither realizes that they are both acting out of fear. The wife fears losing the connection. The husband fears losing his sense of safety. They are stuck in a loop where the more she pursues, the more he runs, and the more he runs, the more she pursues. Behind every nagging partner is a person who is terrified of being forgotten, and behind every distant partner is a person who is terrified of being inadequate. Number 10. The happiness responsibility fallacy. Perhaps the most silent misunderstanding of all is the belief that it is our partner's job to make us happy. We enter relationships looking for someone to fill the holes in our own soul, and when we still feel empty, we blame the person standing next to us. If you are unhappy with your life, your career, or your self-image, you will eventually project that misery onto your spouse. You will think, if they were just more romantic, or more successful, or more attentive, I would feel whole. But no human being can carry the weight of another person's purpose. Psychologically, this is an external locus of control. When we make our joy dependent on someone else's behavior, we become their prisoner and their judge at the same time. A relationship is not a place where you go to get happiness. It is a place where you go to share the happiness you have already cultivated within yourself. The tragedy of most relationships is that we spend our time fighting the person we love, rather than fighting the misunderstandings that stand between us. We treat our partners like enemies when they are actually just as scared and confused as we are. If you can learn to see the fear behind the anger and the need behind the silence, you can begin to bridge the gap. Which of these 10 misunderstandings felt like someone was reading the script of your own life? Have you been the pursuer, the mind reader, or the accountant? Tell us your story in the comments. Sometimes just naming the problem is the first step toward fixing it. But knowing these 10 traps is only the beginning. There is something even more subtle and more dangerous, a quiet shift that happens long before the first argument starts. Most people don't even realize they've crossed the line until it's too late. To protect what you have, you need to know the early warning signs that the foundation is already cracking. Watch our next video, 7 Signs Emotional Misunderstanding Has Already Started, and learn how to catch the fire before it burns the house down. You can't afford to miss this.